Okay, so today we're gonna be pulling out the transmission from this car. It is a ZF transmission. It's made by ZF. It's a 5-speed automatic. I'm gonna pull it out because I need to get a buyer for it so that I can get a manual transmission put into this. So it's still in over there. I'm also going to be pulling out the two downpipes, the 2.8 downpipes, so that once the motor is built I can fabricate downpipes for the 2.7 turbo setup. So I'm going to start by pulling out those O2 sensors, which are these over here, and then once they're both out, then I'll start tackling the drive shaft bolts, prop shaft bolts, and then the mounting bolts, and hopefully the gearbox will just come out. Okay, so both O2 sensors are out. You can see that's where it goes in on that side. This is where it goes in on this side. I've also taken out the torque converter to just make things a little bit easier, and then I've also unplugged the transmission wiring that goes to the control unit. So now we're gonna take off the wheels and start on the axle bolts. So I've also undone this nut over here. You can see it turns out, and also on the other side that one's been done. So I'm just gonna pull off the wheels and then start on those bolts. Okay, I'm not sure if you guys can see what I'm gonna be doing, but I'm going to be taking out the axle bolts from the axle cup on the gearbox. So it looks like I made a mistake with the size. These are M10 triple square bolts.
You make me wanna talk back.
Okay, so I've repositioned the camera so that you can see exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to be working from the top because I found a way that's easier. So you'll see my hands moving around the axle to take out the bolts.
So I choke you down just like a pill.
As you can see, that axle is off. Now we go on to this side. This side I'm not going to film because I just want to get it done as quickly as possible and move on to the prop shaft bolts that we need to take out. So let me get down to this. Okay, so I'm under the car at the moment and I'm busy loosening prop shaft bolts. So if you look at the middle of your screen now, you'll see the prop shaft attached to the back of the gearbox, and there's 6 bolts over there that needs to be loosened. And once I loosen those, I'm going to loosen this cable over here. I think that's for the shifter. Once that's done, then we should be able to loosen the two mounting bolts for the gearbox, and it should drop out. So I'm just going to use my jack, and I'm going to support the gearbox so it doesn't fall out, and the gearbox should be out at that stage. So let's get to that. Okay, so the gearbox is out. Ideally you need a lift and a transmission jack in order to take a transmission out. Obviously the right tools make the job easier, but I can't afford most tools, so I have to just make do with what I've got. I had to take off the mountings over here and just gave up on the gloves. So mountings had to come out, and then had to basically drop the gearbox down, and then while it was on the ground I just unclipped the cable, the selector cable. So that's all done. So the gearbox is out now, so I'm gonna take out the shafts, and then yeah, that's it. Okay, so finally got the diff out. This is the end that connects to the gearbox, and this is the end that connects to the rear diff, and then you've got your carrier bearing in the middle. So the way that I took this out was I just tapped it with a hammer a few times on this over here, and just shook it back and forth, and it just popped out after I took out the bolts. Important thing to note is that you need to mark your diff, so or you have to mark your prop shaft in relation to the rear diff, so that when you do put everything back, it's in balance. On your diff you've got weights that were put in there so that the balance is on point, and if you install it incorrectly you're gonna have issues with the balancing. So just remember to mark your diff with relation, or mark your rear diff with relation to your prop. Okay, so next up, to take out the rear diff, you're gonna have to get in underneath the car, and you're gonna have to take out the rear axle bolts that hold the rear axles to the diff. You can't really see them from here. Let me see if I can get a better angle. Okay, so I finally got the diff out. It was quite difficult doing it with the height that the car was at, but finally it's out, and I'm going to start replacing seals and making sure it's in proper condition to go back into the car. I'm also going to change the diff fluid, make sure there's no broken splines or anything on it, and yeah, then that will be done. So one other thing is I'm sending the block in for engineering after everything. I've decided to actually send it in. Number 6 bore was out of spec, but just by like a thousandth, or not even a thousandth, less than a thousandth of an inch. So sending it in tomorrow morning to get re-sleeved, and then hopefully once that's done we'll get some rings and bearings, and we can put the back or the bottom end back together again. So yeah, that's what's happening at the moment. Well, with the whole pandemic that's got us under lockdown, we can't really do much, so this is the best that I can do under circumstances. So I'll probably get rings and bearings tomorrow because everything will be standard sized, and also this will be sent in tomorrow. I should get it back in 4 days time, so I should release an update by then.
You like a